Welcome to our continued series of questions on this book, Principles of War, a handbook on strategic evangelism, applying the principles of physical war to spiritual war, particularly spiritual war as it regards evangelism. And we're now at chapter 6, and the principle of war is surprise. So, Dad, would you tell us what is the principle of surprise in physical warfare, and maybe an example, and then how does it apply to evangelism?
Well, we can think of surprise as amazement and that sort of thing, but surprise is when you catch somebody off guard. It requires several things. You can do surprise in terms of time, place, method, and it requires the ignorance of one party and the intelligence of the other party. The surprise party must be ignorant, and the other person must have intelligence.
There's the surpriser and the surprisee.
That's right. And
Okay.
we were caught by surprise in Pearl Harbor. We thought it was a dirty sneak attack, but it was good principle. I mean, if you want to win a war, you don't wait and tell the other people you're going to hit them. So this was it was a strategic mistake on their part, but it was a tactical surprise. We don't even think of it in terms of, well, there are a lot of other surprises in physical warfare. The Ardennes in 1940, the German attack there, where they caught us by surprise and they shouldn't have.
Right. What about in Scripture, like Gideon? Was the element of surprise there?
Yes, and he used it in terms of time, the middle of the night, methods,
Smashing
lamps,
pots.
trumpets, pots, things like that, and he won a battle of annihilation with 300 men because he caught these people by surprise, and they ran and fled and killed each other.
Okay, how did surprise play into the the activity of the early church in the Book of Acts? How does surprise enter into that kind of?
Well, Paul at Athens, he caught these people by surprise. You worship this unknown God. I happen to know him,
Right.
and told them about this unknown God they didn't know anything about. I think there are other places like in Lystra, where they thought they were his Zeus and
They're surprised by the miracles that were done.
Yeah, the miracles.
Or at Pentecost, the fact that they were speaking in other languages.
That's right.
Everybody's amazed. Okay, have you ever seen at the one-on-one level?
But that was an amazement. That was amazement first, and they took advantage of the amazement.
Okay, got it. Hey, do you have an example of any one-on-one witnessing encounters with someone where you've done something unexpected, taking them by surprise, utilizing this?
Well, let me tell of a small group thing. In the bookstore in Annapolis, I got to know people from different churches, including the liberal churches, and I got to know a fellow who was in charge of 6 Methodist churches' youth groups. He had all 6 of them, and he's a Christian. Actually, it was Karen Knecht's father, Jack McCrone. And I also met the fellow in charge of the youth group of the Liberal Presbyterian Church, and a few other places. I said, these people don't know each other. So I called a meeting and introduced them to each other, and I said, let's have an evangelistic meeting, and all you have to do is bring your youth groups, and I'll bring the evangelist. And Jack said yes, and we'll get a big sign across Main Street, just like they do for the oyster feast or whatever. I said, no, we won't tell anybody. You don't tell your pastors of your churches, they'll put a stop to it. We won't tell anybody. So I got Bob Finley's evangelist and had these I don't know, 100 high school kids. And at the last minute, I sent a postcard to each of the pastors, inviting them to the meeting. But I waited so long they couldn't stop it. And I think we had about 10 conversions that night. And the pastor of the Presbyterian Church, named William Hudnut, later became mayor of Indianapolis, Union Theological Seminary graduate, and he called me. He said, "You really pulled a fast one on and I was pleased." but I had a good conversation with him, and that was
element of surprise.
Yes.
What about surprising an individual in a conversation?
Well, in College Park we had a bookstore called The Lamplighter, and I manned it once a week to give the fellow a day off. And while I was there, it was early in the 60s, so this woman was obviously a hippie, but before hippies got in force. She's advanced guard.
Advanced guard of the hippies.
And she found out what kind of bookstore she's in, and she started heading for the door, and I could see this, so I cut her off at the pass and stood between her and the door and smiled at her and said, "The books aren't that bad." And she said, "Like what?" And I think I started with Narnia or C.S. Lewis, I'm not sure. And she was obviously just trying to get past me, and I wouldn't let her go. And I kept thinking. I knew I was losing ground, everything I mentioned. And why I said it, I said, "We have some great missionary biographies." And when I said that, she blew her stack. And then I'd wished I'd let her go. She said, "What do you mean going out there and putting clothes on all these innocent people?" And so I prayed to the God of heaven, and I said to the king.
As Nehemiah did.
Yeah. And I looked up, and there was a book called The Savage, My Kinsman by Betty Elliot, which is a big picture book of her ministry to the Auca Indians. And I knew there's a picture in there, I think it's in the last page, and it's a picture of little Valerie Elliot, obviously preschool, walking off toward the woods with an Auca India, hand in hand, both of them in their birthday suits. Neither one of them had any clothes on. So I took the book off and I showed it to her, and I said, "It looks like the Indians are taking the clothes off the missionaries." She looked at it, surprised. "Give me that book." So she sat down and read the book. And she stayed 4 hours. But that caught her by surprise. I told her the gospel. A customer came in, and I gave her a little booklet called "Is Christianity Credible?" and waited on the customer, came back and talked to her some more. Another customer gave her another booklet. She read that. She stayed 4 hours. And about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, she received Christ. Well, there's a case where we opened her eyes, gave her the light, and turned her from the power of Satan to God. When she came in, very closed. And all three things happened, but we opened her eyes by surprise.
Right.
Now, I didn't plan that one. That was just...
but somebody did.
Somebody did, yes.
Thank you.